has been dubbed Africa's First World War. Years of violence and suffering that have plagued the Great Lakes region in Central Africa.
Mugabo nk'imyaka ndabye imyaka namaze nta mahoro nigize ndonka umutima ko naca hose yari ntambara gusa hanyuma harageze n'igihe cyane nigize narashwe ukuguru.
These are life and death situations. Security is a precondition for development, and this is something that's often misunderstood by many external actors, many stakeholders. This is about providing security that in turn can create conditions so that development can follow.
This is a region where borders are porous, and soldiers walk for weeks through virgin forests and jungle where rebel groups of many different names operate. FDLR, FNL, LRA, subsisting in violence and taking a terrible toll on the civilian populations. A place popularized as the Heart of Darkness, where millions have died in conflict in the last decade. The largest program of its kind in the world, MDRP currently targets an estimated 400,000 ex-combatants in 7 countries: Angola, Burundi, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Republic of Congo, Rwanda and Uganda.
Il s'agit là, à mon avis, d'une chaîne qu'il faut entretenir de la même manière, parce que l'aide des maillots mal tenus peut mettre en péril toute la chaîne. Et nous sommes là, toute une chaîne, et chaque maillon a besoin d'être bien huilé pour que la chaîne puisse bien fonctionner.
Supporting the demobilization and reintegration of ex-combatants is essential for breaking the cycle of conflict in the greater Great Lakes region. For current peace initiatives to succeed, many armed groups need to be disbanded and their members helped to rejoin society.
We're here by the River Congo. This film will take you on a journey into the heart of the Great Lakes region in Central Africa, to show you MDRP's unique role as it works with partners to help break the conflict cycle and create the conditions for peace.
MDRP has some 4 or 5 specialists permanently located in the region, such as Dinga in Burundi, a former colonel from Chad.
De l'État de soldats qui a fait la guerre même contre la Libye, maintenant des soldats de la paix en essayant d'aider le pays à faire la paix et à s'orienter vers le développement.
Gromo in Rwanda, who spent most of his life working on humanitarian issues in Africa and witnessed the genocide firsthand in 1994. And Harald, who spends much of his time in the more unstable parts of eastern Congo.
Le DDR, pour des gens qui ne sont pas habitués à cette légende, le premier D, c'est le désarmement, c'est amener les gens à déposer les armes, avoir le contrôle des armes et des munitions, parce qu'en fin de compte, ce sont les armes qui créent des problèmes quand les hommes sont en colère. Le deuxième D, c'est la démobilisation. Et pourquoi on fait la démobilisation? C'est que probablement pendant la guerre, les deux côtés, que ce soit les rebelles ou le gouvernement, ont été amenés à recruter, mais de manière abusive. Ils ne respectent pas les critères objectifs de recrutement. Et comme la guerre est terminée, il va falloir se libérer une partie de cette force-là. Parce que si on conserve l'ensemble des forces, on va faire face à un défi budgétaire. Donc la démobilisation, c'est le deuxième stade qui permet d'alléger la charge budgétaire militaire pour regarder beaucoup plus du côté des ministères sectoriels, surtout les ministères du développement comme les travaux publics, la santé, l'éducation, ainsi de suite. Et l'OR, ça c'est le plus grand défi. On veut inscrire l'OR dans le développement à long terme. C'est ce qu'on appelle, dans certains pays, on appelle ça réintégration, on appelle ça réinsertion. Il y a des fois, on dit c'est 2 R, 3 R, 4 R. Quand on veut lier le processus DDR au processus de réhabilitation ou de reconversion économique du pays.
MONUC is the United Nations mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is the largest UN peacekeeping mission in the world with around 17,000 troops. This is army integration in North Kivu. The security situation remains volatile. While the government is working to integrate former warring factions and local militia into the new army, some army units do not obey orders, and there are different foreign armed groups fighting their own governments from Congolese soil.
En ce moment-là, nous avons à peu près 9 ou 10 forces, groupes et forces armées. Donc tous ces groupes-là devaient unir leurs éléments pour faire une même armée. Mais tout le monde ne devait pas être bénéficiaire ou éligible à faire partie de la nouvelle armée. Voilà où la communauté internationale est venue à la rescousse de la République démocratique du Congo pour dire, comme vous ne saurez pas prendre soin de ceux qui ne vont pas faire partie de l'armée, nous allons, dans le cadre du programme national, les démobiliser et puis les accompagner sur la vie civile.
The main challenge that the MDRP faces in the region is ensuring local ownership, is to ensure that local politicians and indeed local communities take ownership for the DDR process. We must remember that DDR is perhaps the most difficult reform that any country will have to implement, particularly in a transition phase coming out of conflict.
And when we speak about demobilization, obviously we're speaking about putting together different troops, units, which were fighting each other at one point in a single army. And by doing that, each political leaders or rebel leaders might lose some of its military power. So there is obviously a big danger for those political actors, and some of them do everything in their capacity to hamper and slow down the process of demobilization.
All of this happens in a very unsecure environment. So that as well on the side of the army cannot go through the process in one go. They have to go through batches because they have as well to maintain their presence in the field for security reasons.
On the other hand, there are hardly any state structures, hardly any functioning banks. It's very difficult to get information across from one side of the country to the other side. There are hardly any authorities in the eastern part of the DRC that are linked up to the government in Kinshasa. These things make it very difficult. And therefore it is quite special to see that hundreds of thousands of people are in fact demobilized through the program.
Les unités ont suivi avec intérêt vos sages conseils.
This is Luberizi in South Kivu. At this Army Integration Center, soldiers make their choice either to join the new army or to demobilize.
Environ 150 000 personnes ont été prévues dans le programme, une année et demie après le début. 45 000 sont allés dans l'armée, environ 100 000 sont restés dans la démobilisation et dans ces 100 000, nous avons environ 20 000 enfants et le reste sont des adultes que nous accompagnons sur la voie de la réinsertion.
En 2001, au mois de mai, il y a eu une vague d'attaques de la rébellion qui venait du Congo. En fait, c'était une attaque suicidaire. Et le gouvernement également a réfléchi, il a dit non, ces gens-ci qui attaquent comme ceci, sous forme de suicide, c'est que là où ils ne sont pas bien. Faisons une stratégie de les appeler, d'attraction, une stratégie attractive pour qu'ils soient convaincus, qu'ils sachent que quand ils vont entrer dans ce pays-ci, ils ne courent aucun risque. Et c'est là que, à ce moment-là, on nous a dit aussi de nous occuper des gens qui quittent la rébellion, donc les groupes armés. Et c'est depuis 2001, les premiers, nous les avons démobilisés en décembre 2001. Et depuis lors, donc, nous avons 3 catégories de combattants dont nous nous occupons. Donc l'armée régulière, qui est maintenant les forces rwandaises de défense, ou Rwanda Defense Forces, et les ex-FAR, forces armées rwandaises, et les ex-membres des groupes armés.
General Bizimungu is one of the most high-profile former Rwandan rebel commanders to voluntarily disarm and repatriate.
J'avais eu des contacts juste dès le début. L'exécution de ma décision de rapatriement, quand j'avais regroupé les civils et les combattants dans un endroit qu'on appelle Luvungi au sud Kivu, j'ai directement été en contact avec un certain Harald et Hunker. Ils nous ont encouragés au rapatriement en nous fournissant des informations vraiment palpables et rassurantes à ce qui concerne la sécurité au Rwanda. Et ça nous a alors encouragés au retour.
The disarmament part of the DDR process is not financed by MDRP, but MDRP includes partners who carry out disarmament. MONUC arrives to disarm and repatriate a unit of the Rwandan rebel group, the FDLR, who fled from Rwanda during and after the 1994 genocide, and some of whom are thought to have taken part in it. This footage was filmed by MDRP specialist Harald in December 2005.
It is not my job to disarm, but working closely with MONUC, I do help to negotiate disarmament. At times I'm being called, I'm being contacted. People learn that I'm around, have been thinking about giving up the armed struggle and return, but not being decided, not having good information, fear. So sooner or later they learn that I'm a person, a foreigner whom you can talk to, who might provide information and who as well can go to the other side and talk to people there and say, well, this and this is the problem, can this be solved? Can we have any insurance or assurance over key issues, key fears like personal security, material security. At times dignity comes up, these kind of things. And they're usually easy to solve. And down the line, finally both sides talk to each other, and then it becomes very easy and very fast, because then you have a real communication going on, question, answer, and usually that doesn't take long. So that it is found out that for years and years somebody has been around in the forest based on wrong assumptions, had no good information, finding out everything is different, let me go home.
After crossing the border, they undertake 2 months of training at the Mutobo Demobilization camp, where they are taught how to reintegrate peacefully into Rwandan society.
In the jungle, we made a hard life. Hardships to get food is very difficult, and the tasks there, military tasks, are dangerous and sometimes not clear, and we are obliged to commit some immoral tasks, and the life there is like any more one.
C'était des rebelles qui avaient commis tous les crimes au Rwanda, donc le génocide, plus les crimes dont ils sont coupables au Congo. Donc des gens comme tout à fait refusés par la société. Mais maintenant, c'est tout à passé. Donc ça, c'est un travail de réintégration sociale. Les ex-combattants rwandais maintenant, qui sont d'ailleurs nombreux maintenant, et nous sommes proches de 56 000 ex-combattants. Ces 56 000 ex-combattants sont maintenant considérés non pas comme une charge à la société, comme des potentiels troubles faits ou troubles paix, mais ce sont des gens qui contribuent à la reconstitution du pays. Ils contribuent à la reconstitution de l'économie. C'est une force maintenant. Nous les considérons comme une force. Et ce qui fait que nous servons d'exemple maintenant. Nous avons des visites d'autres pays de la région qui viennent voir comment nous avons réussi à transformer la société. Une société qui était divisée et qui, nous, en fait, ce qui était nos faiblesses, ce qui constituait notre faiblesse, constitue maintenant notre force.
Having been here in 1994 and coming back in 2003 to work with a program that to a large extent also concentrates on those who are allied with those who committed the genocide in 1994, it hasn't always been easy. I have to ask myself, am I doing the right thing? I mean, am I also encouraging people to come back who will then, 10 years from now, do the same thing they did 12 years ago? There's this moral issue debate that goes on constantly. But the one thing that encourages me is that it was actually the government who asked me, or the MDRP, to deal with these combatants on foreign soil. So from their view, the best thing for Rwanda, for the region, was to bring these people back home.
This is one of the lessons learned of this program, is the importance of having the governments lead the process. They are the only ones that can provide the political commitment required during a post-conflict period to facilitate parallel processes such as reforms in the armies that allow the demobilization and reintegration process to proceed.
The MDRP target figure from the Congo is 16,000 Rwandan combatants, so there remains 10,000 more. And we got to at least consider that among those, the younger ones, that they're not lost yet because they didn't engage in it. They engaged in the support of what's happening now in the Congo, but they didn't necessarily engage in Rwanda in 1994.
This is the voice of a former child soldier from Burundi. Child soldiers go to the rehabilitation center in Muhazi.
Ubuzima nabayemo nuko nari ndi mu gisirikare bakadukoresha imirimo ivunanye bakaduhereza imbunda umwana atakiwe gutwara baguhereza iyo mbunda kungubwo mukajya kunambara iyo mbunda wayita ubwo bagahita bakwica.
No mu ntambara rimwe na rimwe nagiye mpakomerekera cyane nuko nageze hano ubuzima burahinduka ngenda mbona ko ibintu byose ari ibintu byose mbifite ndyama neza nkarira ku saha sinikorera imizigo iremereye natuje ndakina nkiga gakora n'ibindi bituma umubiri wanjye unezerwa.
Call them reporters when they come to us. You have on the one hand people displaced, living in internally displaced camps, and on the other side you have their own children, the majority their own people who are out there fighting them. Without reconciliation you wouldn't have that community as a community again.
I was 15 years old by the time I was abducted. I was taken to Sudan on the 5th May 1999. So from there, we resumed to Uganda. From Uganda, we were being ordered to do other activities like killing, cutting mobs, cutting breasts, especially women. And for men, we were cutting their ears, mouths, and when they continue to cry, just remove the nose.
The Commission, of course, grants amnesty to rebels who turn up, surrender rebellion, denounce rebellion, surrender weapons that are in their possession, and ask to be granted amnesty. Then the Commission is to resettle and reintegrate them into the communities.
The amnesty applies to all of the rebel movements that at some point in time since the late 80s have rebelled against the government. At the moment, the most important one is the Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA, and their area of operation is largely in northern Uganda, and the so-called Acholi area of northern Uganda, and of course they move in and out of southern Sudan and currently even eastern Congo. The word reporter is a specific term developed here to be used in conjunction with the amnesty. Many of those that apply for amnesty have never consciously opted to go into a rebel movement. Very many have been abducted into that force and held there with physical and psychological pressures, and actually been brainwashed in that process and been scared from running away.
These returnees comprises of child mothers who were abducted when they were young girls.
Khi đông ngồi bể gà cái chó em đông bao bao của mắm, ada owe nyual, opia wa nyual, kini ngan kerme lueng, kerme bể la mon me, be kita wa be wa lueng ya be, ma be wa wang na ye, owe yung me ma da bể da nyual la ye, em cái là chó em cái me han bar, ma ai ka em. Teka ngara tem lui ki ya en wona nyanya no goy tak ma ambe ke kar kan job bere goy tak dam tem lui wa I be lu wa em pe tem lui.
Among them also are boys and men who were abducted and made to become child soldiers.
We document them and give them amnesty certificates. Then thereafter we give them some resettlement package. We also will begin to try to reintegrate them into the communities. The MDRP has given us funding to do that.
This assistance to the Amnesty Commission and therefore to providing a peaceful future for the rebels in Uganda plays an important part in the total puzzle of settling people that were involved in violent conflicts in the entire region of the Great Lakes.
20,000 people have benefited from the amnesty process, and that is a big achievement. We are now moving forward to reintegrate these people in the communities, to make them begin to earn their livings by themselves, to have sustainable lives. From people in affected areas mainly, they will tell you that the amnesty process is one process on which they rely heavily and have hopes of achieving peace in the end.
Quite large numbers of fighters have been demobilized. That's a big achievement, and I think that counts for itself, in itself. But it's not the end. These people are still there. They no longer carry weapons, but they still can in the future. So we have to do something in order to integrate them solidly into civil life. And that is a challenge which is maybe even more difficult to achieve. A lot of the ex-fighters know nothing else than the military trade or handling a weapon. They hardly have any other skills. Trying to have them gain those skills, train them to become part of civil life is a big challenge which I think we still have to do a lot more things in order to get that right.
Mugabo nk'imyaka ndabye imyaka namazeyo nta mahoro nigize ndonka mu mutima ko naca hose yari ntambara gusa hanyuma harageze n'igihe cyane nigize narashwe kuguru gushikaho.
Au départ, on avait peur que la population locale va être hostile aux ex-combattants. Vous savez, les gens qui hier étaient en armes, qui venaient de passer plus de 10 ans en se combattant, des fois on avait peur que la société locale, que la population pourrait éventuellement être hostile à l'égard de ces ex-combattants. Mais nous avons trouvé qu'effectivement, parce que la population avait aussi l'engouement d'avoir la paix et la sécurité, ils ont vraiment été favorables aux démobilisés. C'est pour nous un point très fort de notre réintégration.
Sanzwe itwa tugeze ku gatumba iwacu rero batwigishije ukuntu tuzogira inyifato n'ingenzi dushobora kuzobaho mu buzima bwacu zo tugiye mu bushasha. Batuye ati twashika mu mitumba iwacu tuje gushinga amashira hamwe mugabo tinubanye n'abanyagihugu gatubereke kazoza keza gihugu. Twahitseje tuyunga n'abanyagihugu hanyuma twabasho twokora ati tubumbe amategura yewe baradufasha ariko babitwigisha batwemereye yuko tumaze kugira amashira hamwe ariho bazodufashiriza.
Le Burundi pour le moment peut être interprété comme un pays assez calme, sauf la menace du FNL qui se situe simplement autour de Bujumbura. En termes de menaces aux frontières, je pense simplement peut-être à l'incursion des éléments rebelles rwandais qui se trouvent en RDC ou bien les Interamwe. Cela risque de compliquer le processus, non seulement de démobilisation, parce que les gens démobilisés peuvent être tentés d'aller regagner le maquis pour ceux qui ne sont pas satisfaits. Ensuite, du côté de la réforme du secteur sécurité, on peut craindre une attaque. Donc on va dire non, au lieu de réduire les effectifs de forces, il faut maintenir ces forces pour faire face à la rébellion.
The country cannot afford conflict. The country cannot afford the instrument of conflict, meaning the huge size of the army compared to the economy. That's why we have the instrument of demobilization. We've given this country tremendous opportunity to afford to demobilize people. Just think about if there were no MDRP program. If you demobilize these people, what are you going to do with them? You're not going to just let them to go back to the hills. Of course, they're going to come back and do the same thing. So this is a very, very, very unique instrument.
Yego, kuko urabona ubushomeri bushaka punguka. Iyo umuntu agafasha nza kajya agafashanya bituma yisununura kandi akaronka icyo afungura akaronka n'icyo yambara n'icyo afasha umuryango. Cyo gituma rero kajya karafasha cyane mu bisanzwe karafasha. Nk'umuntu yagafashe neza karamugira akamaro.
Sawa kugira ngo be mukurindiriraho ajya mfashanyo y'umugambi hanyuma rero aho ndonke ajya y'umugambi naramaze kuyaronka naciye ngurize ntuzeye izi mashine mubona ngaha ayi
mu nyuma baca baduha amahera y'imigambi bya 600. Jewe rero ntibampaye 600, baduhaye ivyo dushobora gukoresha. Bari bashoboye kumpa imifuko 14 y'isukari hama ni pake imwe y'inzenga ya sostomati. Amahera baraheze ayo rero ayo mahera bampaye niyo navunjemo kurangura ibiri
muge kiriko kiramfasha ubu n'ururusyo nyene naguze ngani ngo rumfasha n'umugore wanje n'utwana twanje nkishi ku bwa mbere nacye mbanza kuyubakira akazi mu tubari bampereje bugira kabiri dusigaye nenza ndongereza ushikaho nkanguri imashini ni imashini rero ni nze n'umuryango icyo mbona nk'ubu mu bisanzwe kiriko kirasa nikigira nico kiriko kiratera kije imbere ninga aya mahoro gusa rikaragira imbere muga ndabye neza nk'ibyo naciyemo hano mu bisanzwe birakwiye.
At the root of every conflict somewhere there is at least one. In many cases it's an agglomeration of problems. If those are not being addressed in the meantime while you run your program, this conflict will reappear. It will come back. So what you have done would be ridiculous. So in the meantime, other people have to solve those problems. So you're only buying time.
Donc il s'agit là de grands défis et à partir de ce moment-là, il revient à chaque pays de créer des conditions pour que grâce à la conscience qui, à mon avis, pourrait prendre corps autour d'un idéal qui n'est autre que de bâtir une nation qui soit une nation solide, une et indivisible, et deux, d'avoir, de libérer toutes les énergies et pour faire que ces énergies contribuent au développement du pays. Donc il s'agit là de voir le Congo de demain un peu différent du Congo d'hier.
With so much cynicism in the world about development, if we can show that this kind of a partnership can work, we will have achieved something very important in the MDRP and in the region, in Africa, where development is so difficult, is so intractable, and where we often lose hope.